The best cinema camera under $5,000 in 2026 is the one you already have. No, you want to get something new. That's why you're watching this video. You want to find out what the best new camera is. You're wondering, what is the best cinema camera for 2025 under $5,000? I've been doing this for long enough to remember what $5,000 would get you in 2005, and it is nothing compared to where we are at now. So I think the first thing out the gate is you do have to acknowledge that technology has come so far. All of the spec talk and the kind of YouTube hype machine about cameras is really kind of irrelevant. But for the sake of talking about what people want to know, it's always a relevant conversation. To me, I shoot on the FX9, that's what I'm shooting on here, and we use mostly Sony cameras, but under $5,000, there's a lot of good options. I mean, I'm gonna go down the list, but even the FX9, I think you can get used for less than $5,000. So when you start talking about used cameras, it gives you a lot more options than you can just find, in the market today. So if you're new here, my name's Remzi Atassi. I'm a filmmaker based in Chicago. I make YouTube videos about the art, the science, and the technology behind creativity. So if you're interested in that, please subscribe. There's a big distinction and it depends on your use case. Because if you're using one of these more cinema type cameras, they're larger, they have the built-in NDs, and they have usually some better audio preamps and audio controls. But if you don't need those things and what you want is something that's really small and versatile, then you probably want to be thinking more about mirrorless cameras. The advantage at this price point is that if you get a mirrorless camera, or again, you go used for them, then you're gonna be able to get some lenses and accessories and stay within the $5,000 budget. I think you'll find, regardless of what the price is on the thing that you buy, it could be a new camera or a used one, the actual investment that you have to put in always starts out a little bit higher because you're having to get batteries and media and whatever kind of proprietary, extra stuff that comes along with it. And I think that $5,000 is kind of the sweet spot because it allows you to be either getting one of these sort of mirrorless hybrid cameras that is, very innovative and top of its class, or you can also be looking at, cinema cameras like an FX9 or an FX6 or a Canon C70, a Red, even Komodo X. Sometimes small kits will come down. So you have a lot of options. So in the first category, we'll talk about the used market pick. And for me, I use the Sony cameras, which is why I would say something like a used Sony FX6 or an FX9 is a great option. The 6 is probably more widely used and is the one that you would be smart to get if you're gonna be renting these out a lot. It is obviously getting a little bit older, like all of these Sony cameras are kind of waiting for the successor. So there's a little bit of a risk in investing in this stuff, but at the same time, it ticks all the boxes, and the camera that you want to have is really the one that other people are using because it gives you the most opportunities to kind of tap in and rent your camera or use it with other people on their projects. So in the $5,000 cinema camera range, I think both of those Sonys are possibilities. So if you're willing to go a little older even, you have a lot of options. I sold my Red Dragon X last year for $4,000, and that was like a completely functioning kit. So I see them out there with the Gemini, the 5K, a camera that costs $20,000 just for the brain. Those kits are still going now $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. For Canon, the C80 I think is gonna put you just outside of $5,000, but there might be some used ones, it's pretty new. The C70 used, definitely you're gonna be in there. I think the C70s are a good option. There's also the R5C if you go down and are looking at mirrorless. That said, a lot of it comes down to your workflow. So if you're gonna be, creating content where you wanna be able to run and gun, having the smaller cameras has a lot of advantages. In that realm, again, I come from Sony, so there's the FX3 or the FX30. I think bang for your buck, the FX30 has to be one of the best because you can find those on sale. And yeah, it's a smaller sensor and it's not as good in low light, but it's quite purpose made and it has all the otherwise functions that you would want from the FX3, which makes it a very good kind of entry level investment that you will be able to continue to use. If you want a Canon, I think, as I was saying in the R5C, I've used the Nikon ZR once, which shoots the red the red code. I have to say I was not that impressed with it. It's a cool camera and the images are great, but a lot of, as people say, a lot of the extra stuff around it kind of leaves you underwhelmed. And my thing is, I just don't really want to deal with the red codecs. I don't really see the value versus like what you're gonna get out of some of these nice, leaner codecs that are still 10-bit and pretty high bit rate. So I've never been disappointed with the stuff that comes out of Sony. You know, if you're doing color and finishing in the suite, like you're gonna see that there's really not that much difference. And I have shot a lot of red stuff and even some films where I put it back to back with other things. And by the time it's in the finished project, like you're just never gonna know. So if you're gonna spend the money on these things, like you wanna think about how it's gonna fit in the overall ecosystem of your workflow. It's not just about having the camera, it is the lenses, it's the media and the support, and like the editing infrastructure that you're gonna need to do it. This is why I think so many people are using the FX3 still, a camera that is old and is definitely needs to be replaced in a few ways. Probably will be happening pretty soon. Not that it will make the old one obsolete, but you know, just to be competitive in what has become a very competitive kind of sphere of technology, you really have to have the more, you know, feature set that people are looking for. And I think Sony brought a lot of us in because they were that innovator, and now that, you know, they have such wide mass adoption, they're afraid of cannibalizing their other cameras. And as a user of the ecosystem, the thing that's frustrating to me is like they made the 9 end of life, and for me it's like a better fit for what I do. But I don't want to spend, you know, the $25,000-$30,000 for the Burano. So there's really not much of a place for you to go. We just wait, and yeah, maybe there will be another FX6. I think for now you're probably definitely good to still buy it, because it's just, you know, it works very well, and if there is some successor, it's like gonna have maybe some more frame rates, or, you know, it's gonna be iterative. It's not gonna be fundamentally changing the way that this stuff is. And as I was saying in the beginning, if you go back to, you know, 2005, 2008, I mean, for $5,000, like you were getting maybe some kind of a, you know, a mini DV camera or something like that. And I mean, I spent $15,000 on a Sony EX3, which you do still sometimes see around, but you know, it was like essentially a 2/3 inch like broadcast camera. But the bigger shows were still using like F900s and these old tape-based, you know, essentially ENG cameras. So, and those cost $100,000. There was a studio I know that had invested in like 5 of those, and then the next year it was like there was the 70 and the 5D Mark II shooting video, and that was of course what catalyzed like all of the change. So, you know, you want to be grateful for what you have. If you're interested in checking out how some of these cameras work, once you start putting looks onto them, I have a look set of 10 free LUTs. They're for 6 different camera systems, so you'll get them for Sony, you'll get them for Canon, you'll get them for Blackmagic, you'll get them for Red and Arri, and Fuji. So check those out. You can download them free. They're linked in the description. You can plug them into your camera and try them out. And I think you can't make a wrong call no matter where you go. Technology's come a long way. It's more about who you are as an artist, but yes, people love videos about cameras. So here you go, the top 5 cameras in 2026 under $5,000.